Hey YouTubers, I need to talk about something when it pertains to, you know, what we're gonna be doing for the rest of Sunday. So after last night, hearing about the unfortunate untimely death of John Hubert or John Hubbard, I think that's how I pronounce his last name. Basically formerly known as Luke Harper and better known as Brodie Lee. But the unfortunate timing of his death at the age of 41 due to non-COVID related to his lungs is what the reports was of it. Don't know how bad it was, but basically due to that whole situation, um, you know, I just I'm still all in all waking up earlier this morning about maybe about 5 to 6. I can't remember how many times I kept waking up. But I was supposed to be checking out to see if the place at Wuhan Hospital, the whole COVID-19 testing team. But then because I was just too tired and still you know emotional of the passing of Brodie Lee. It's not just the whole to that until the next day. So next day, my cousin and my bro, we'll be going there tomorrow to finally get that testing done. But other than that, I feel great. I don't feel like I'm sick of any kind. I don't feel like I have COVID-19, but you can never be too careful. You know, it's better safe than better. Be sorry. But yeah, but there'll be a vlog for that one tomorrow too. As far as this video itself, this will be a vlog too, but it's not gonna be a long one. Maybe it's gonna be longer, maybe longer than the video I did, where since to after hearing about this news about John Humber. But talking about Jonathan Hubbard. Again, either is Hubbard or Hubert. If that's how you pronounce his last name. I'm still can't believe it that he's gone. All I can say is that remember seeing him back in 2013. Obviously, going to the main roster with Bray Wyatt and Eric Rowan as Luke Harper, the Wyatt family. I was excited to see the Wyatt family. It was giving me my first exposure of who Luke Harper was, along with Bray Wyatt. Even though Bray Wyatt, we already know who he was before that hand. But also with Eric Rowan, see what all the big fuss was about versus the Wyatt family that came up from NXT, coming to the main roster, and everyone was excited. Everyone was praising the Wyatt family, of this gimmick and everything, until once you hit the main roster, they managed to fuck it up, as always. But people still invested the Wyatt family, despite the booking that happened with them. And we look at Luke Harper, where Luke Harper, an amazing wrestler, an amazing athlete. When you see that look of Luke Harper back in those days, he got you that type of vibe of he could be the WWE's Bruiser Brody. Even though I always said before, Undertaker is more of the Bruiser Brody of the WWE, because of Undertaker's character, his character has always remains the same and never changed, never been looked at as a joke, which I could be happy and 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 proud of that. Because Undertaker stood his grounds or retains the whole thing. And then you see Brodie Lee, as Luke Harper. He's kind of the same thing too, where off camera you see him being a fun guy and everything, but when it's time to be on TV as the character Luke Harper, like with the Undertaker, keep it serious and everything, and that's basically what it was. And yeah, he may have done some a little time hokey shit, but he still stood in character with that look of his face and everything that he did. That's how good that Jonathan Humbert or Hubert was. Again, I'm assuming it's either Humbert or Hubert. That's how you pronounce his last name. I can't recall, but yeah, the White family was a very important faction during that time, especially going up against the Shield in 2014, and then we don't know what happened at WrestleMania with that whole thing. I don't want to mention. I don't want to talk about that. It was a horrible year for the White family. With the whole thing with John Cena. Enough said. But then Luke Harper ends up being on his own, along with Eric Rowan, end up being on his own too. Luke Harper during that time became Intercontinental Champion. Now it was an underrated win and an underrated reign. Not to his fault. It was the fault of the booking of the WWE. But at least with him being Intercontinental Champion, the best match he had was against Dolph Ziggler in that TLC match. Well, it was a ladder match, but it was a WWE TLC S pay-per-view. Tables, ladders, chairs, and stairs. Yeah. But either way, Luke Harper had an amazing match with Dolph Ziggler to open up the show, and there was an amazing match between those two, and they had some good matches before and after, but this match is what put Luke Harper status on the map, and then they managed to fuck that up because Vince McMahon thought nothing of him because he couldn't speak a southern accent. But on and off, White family kept coming back and everything, and then and there was also a time period where Luke Harper ended up getting injured in a way, and then he ends up being with Eric Rowan once again, this time, but the name changes of Harper and Rowan, the Bludgeon Brothers, was one of my favorite tag teams. That they did there. The promos itself, it was hokey and everything, but they made it work in a way. And we finally see the debuts with the cool music, the cool theme music, everything, the atmosphere of it was cool. They became tag team champions. I remember being there live for SmackDown after SummerSlam. That the Bludgeon Brothers went up against the New Day, and they lost the match, but it was still a good match. Now I was not happy that the New Day won, obviously, because the New Day with their characters, all that, but yeah, that was a SmackDown show where I wanted to see Shinsuke Nakamura because he was United States champion, but he didn't came out there. He didn't do his entrance. Unfortunately, he was just backstage doing his promo of United States of Nakamura. But at least I got to see the entrance of the Bludgeon Brothers live and in person, along with my best friend, by the way, who was with me too. Now, Eric Rowan was injured since SummerSlam, I believe, which is why they did the match. I believe the match was a no disqualification that involves tables and stuff, whatever. So yeah, Eric Rowan unfortunately got hurt, and he had to go away because of that. But Luke Harper, he's back to where it is with Vince McMahon. Don't know nothing of him and doesn't want to do anything with him. And then when he got hurt, he ends up being gone for a while, and then he ends up coming back because he ends up recovering. And he wanted to go back to NXT because the main roster wasn't doing nothing with him. They rejected him, and he sold it right on the wall that they wasn't going to use him. They wasn't going to do anything with him, so he asked for his release. And not only didn't grant his release, but they froze his contract because of the time he was gone because of his injuries. And and during that time, they still did nothing with him. He was supposed to be working a program with Sami Zayn, either to face him or to be you know, alongside with Sami Zayn. But Luke Harper was stuck in the middle where he was, pitching ideas while he was gone, and they turned him down of everything that he tried to basically do the jobs for them because they weren't doing anything for him. But I think one of them is where he wanted to be just a normal guy, be his own man, where he's fighting for his family. I'm assuming that was going to be his character on that they rejected. He ended up coming back, but they still didn't much with him. With just with him and Eric Rowan coming back, but this time with Eric Rowan being the guy, being the leader and everything in the way, and ordering Luke Harper around. And then finally, Luke Harper finally got his release, and obviously when he got his release, he got to wait 90 days. That whole no compete clause thing that the WWE always got to do, and finally he did. But unfortunately, it was at a bad timing of this year, the pandemic, where in Rochester, New York was supposed to be where he was gonna make his debut, but unfortunately, at this whole COVID-19 happened, plans changed, unfortunately. And he really got a huge monster reaction for that, to making his debut in AEW as the Exalted One, Brodie Lee. The return of Brodie Lee, but being part of the Dark Order, or since him being the Exalted One. But he still ends up coming to AEW despite no crowds there, and it was still a great moment because Brodie Lee, we get to see the other side of Brodie Lee that we should be seeing on WWE programming, where he was Luke Harper. Even though we did see it, but we didn't get the type of booking that he should have gotten in the WWE, like he got in the AEW, even before coming into WWE, which is to him in the indies of Ring of Honor, Dragon Gate, and whatever have you, Chikara, where he was Brodie Lee, obviously that was his indie name, Brodie Lee. He was just great, and I hear nothing but great things about Brodie Lee. We're just him being a person, a human being, a husband, a father, and just a friend to all his peers. He comes to AEW. He's a leader of the faction, the Dark Order that was going nowhere at first. But they still kept it going until we got Brodie Lee come in, and Brodie Lee became Mr. Brodie Lee, a knockoff of Vince McMahon, even though he claims that it was not supposed to be a knockoff of Vince McMahon, but we all kind of knew it kind of was. And he wanted to get away from that, but he did something a little different with that whole thing. And then the way he eventually did get chipped away from that, even though he was still wearing the suits and everything, but he still chipped away from that. But he got an opportunity to face Jon Moxley for the AEW World Title at Double or Nothing. Great match. Great hardcore match. It was basically what it was. It was like a hardcore match between those two. The match that they should have been they should have done with them when they had Extreme Rules match from 2015 when they had their match. And that was a flop, But when it was Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper, but in Jon Moxley and Brodie Lee in AEW, that made up for it. Unfortunately, Brodie Lee came up short, but then he still ended up being booked strong until he ended up going getting his opportunity against Cody Rhodes for the AEW TNT title, and he won it. And he's had some decent to good matches being the champion, the TNT champion, and then his final appearance on the show was against Cody Rhodes in that dog collar match. It was Brodie's idea, by the way, where because of that one favorite match that he saw was Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine of their dog collar match from Starrcade. And he wanted that match to happen between him and Cody Rhodes, and they granted that for Brodie Lee, and unfortunately that was his last match he had, and he lost the belt to Cody Rhodes, obviously. And then we were wondering what happened with him after that. Uh, there's been reports at first that he came in injured during that time. At one point, saying that like an ankle, like some sort of ankle injury, and then, unfortunately, we get to the, you know, to the breaking sad news that he passed, age of 41. Still in shock and still speechless of all this. But his wife did confirm that that he unfortunately passed. The worst thing of hearing about this news is me waking up after I was taking a nap. It was the worst feeling I had, just waking up and reading about this whole thing. When you're waking up and your mind is trying to function and everything that you're after seeing that, like, is this real? Like, am I dreaming? And it was real. It just felt real. You didn't want to believe that was real, but it just hit you like a pile of bricks. It really sucks too, because he just started coming back to wrestling after being released by WWE and not be able to work for 90 days, and he finally did, and too soon. He was taken away from us too soon. So, his final days was during the holidays with his family, and after Christmas, obviously, he died alongside with his wife and his two wonderful sons. Sorry. My condolences goes out to the family and friends that unfortunately lost a great man, and Jonathan Harper. I saw everyone's tweets and Instagrams posts and everything about from everyone that knew and loved Brodie Lee from AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor, whatever have you. Just showing love, every love that I saw from Bray Wyatt, John Silver, Anna Jay, Kevin Owens, Eric Rowan, Daniel Bryan, Serena Deeb, and many just to name a few. But my thoughts and prayers goes out to the family and friends for losing Jonathan Harper, and my condolences goes out to the rest of the wrestling community for losing too soon a very talented wrestler coming into this business. Thank you, Brodie Lee, for your time in WWE as Luke Harper, your time in AEW as Brodie Lee. Rest in peace, Exalted One.